Hey, I'm going to call the meeting to order of the Norfolk Advisory Committee for the night of October 9th. First thing I'll do is take roll call. Melissa Sear,
Here.
Joyce Terrio,
Here.
Jonathan Hurwitz,
Here.
Rob Garrity,
Here.
Mike G,
Here.
Ken Fitzgerald.
Here.
Thais, you have to turn on the camera when we take online votes. Thank you. Thais Hickman? Yeah, sorry, you got it. I'm looking at your name. Thais Hickman. I haven't heard of Thais. Are you here?
I'm here.
Okay, great. We have quorum of all members. Our agenda tonight is we have a couple things to review. We're going to hear from Don Clark, the assessor in town, about the bylaw change that that the town's proposing, and he's going to talk to us about that. And then we're going to hear from the planning, the town planner, and folks from the owners of the Southwood Hospital property about the proposed changes to the bylaws. We will also discuss other planning articles that are on the warrant. And then Justin's going to give us an update on process for the capital articles and things like that. So first thing I'd like to do is turn it over to Don Clark to talk about the article that you're here for.
Thank you, Dave, and thank you, the board, tonight to let me do this tonight. So basically, this bylaw since 1940 stipulated that the assessors would post the property values in the town report, and every fifth year after that. This practice hasn't been followed since 1995. So I presented it to my board of assessors. They voted unanimously on July 24th to recommend that the policy be removed, and we continue with the current practice of posting on our website and also have it available in the office at all times, which we're required to do anyway.
All right. So I stepping back, you said you haven't done it since when?
This practice hasn't been followed since 1995.
So it hasn't been in the every 5 years in the annual report since then. Okay.
Correct.
So it's closing in on 30 years. And it's been available on the website since then?
In the 6 years that I've been here, yes. I can't speak
Okay.
prior to that, no.
Right. Does anyone else have any questions on this? Seems like so when it was actually a question, when it was published, you may not even know, but was it like every single property was listed with that valuation attached to it? Is that how it worked, or?
At the time, I believe it was the abatements, just the abatements were
Okay.
published. Not every single property like we
All right.
practice now.
Okay.
So
And
basically, it's coming into the, it's just the 20th century with the web, and everything's available now. This was way back in the day.
Sure. Does anyone else have any questions on this? Anyone from the committee? No. I think then we're done with you. Thank you. We may be voting on this tonight, or maybe doing it next week, but thanks for showing up, and I appreciate that. And we're going forward. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Sure. You too. The second item on our agenda is discuss the article relative to the rezoning of Southwood Hospital. I'm sorry, the Southwood property. I'm not sure what the politically correct term is for that now, but we had a preliminary presentation on this when we had our first meeting. I think everyone got a copy of the article. At this point, I'll turn it over to Rich McCarthy, our town planner, for a presentation on that. First question is, Rich, has there been any changes since we saw the original proposal?
No, there hasn't.
Okay, you had your public hearing last week?
No, actually, it was last month, September.
Okay, last month. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we had to move you. So why don't you go ahead and present, please?
Sure. What I thought, if you think it'd be acceptable, would be that GFI Partners, who purchased the property in 2021 to redevelop, had put together a video in terms of what they're thinking in terms of the concept for the redevelopment. Would it be all right to show that first? It's not very long, and it would give you, I think it would give everybody a sense of what potentially is.
It's sort of an overview what's going to happen kind of thing, or like a
Yeah, what it does is it gives you a
graphical presentation.
graphical presentation in terms of what's being considered in terms of a industrial and commercial development for the property.
Yeah,
That's-
if no one else has an objection, I'm fine with that. All right, go ahead.
All right, let me just need to screen share. All right, let me just give me a second. I'll get it loaded up and then. Do you see a video?
We see it behind our.
That
I
wasn't
see the
good.
beginning of the video, but it's behind the display of
Yeah, hold on a second. Sorry
all of
about that.
us.
All right, I'll have to work through my technological.
Erica, do you have to give him access or anything like that, or?
Yeah, he has ability to share.
Okay.
I think Rich, if it's
I think
Yeah.
there we go.
Okay.
Here we
Yeah.
are.
All right, there we go.
I did want some stirring music, but that's fine.
Yeah, I'll work on that. Inspirational music.
The music was there. It just didn't come
Oh,
across.
it didn't, okay.
All right.
Yeah, it didn't.
I think Rich's computer might have been running a little slow there.
Yeah,
I'll keep to myself.
I'll. And I didn't want to sing either. Probably that would probably.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, spare everyone
So,
that.
you've
So-
got a proposal pending, to rezone that parcel. We heard a preliminary presentation for you, like, either at the end of August or September, but, just sort of bring us up to speed on where you're at and,
Sure.
what's coming before the town meeting through this
Sure.
article.
As in terms of context for what's being presented to town meeting, it started several months ago now, where we applied for a planning grant through Executive Office of Environmental Affairs to look at the zoning for the C6 zoning district. And at the time, one of the considerations was actually looking at 40R, if you recall, if you remember back to that point, and higher density residential development, as well with some commercial uses. As part of going through that planning process, there was community meetings, some surveys that were conducted with the public and abutters and so forth. And through that process, identified potential development scenarios for the property. And in the development scenario analysis, it looked at in terms of impact relative to tax impact, service impact, traffic, other impacts in terms of utility usage. And so it came down to some what came down to his preferences in terms of what the community would like to see. And earlier in 2024, through that process, the planning board, through the study, it turned to GFI Partners as they are the property owners, and they needed to evaluate what would make sense from a redevelopment standpoint, with the premise being that the redevelopment of the Southwood property, although we're trying to transition to 111 Dedham Street, that development would pay for the remediation and cleanup of the site, which is contaminated. And then from that process, it would generate uses to the town, which would generate taxes. And as we were landed more recently, potential for job creation as well. So having looked at the preferences from the community and looked at the market and so forth, GFI had presented to the planning board that they thought that the commercial industrial type development was a more viable option for them, a more feasible option for them for a lot of different reasons. One, for market. Two, that's the type of that's the kind of sweet spot in terms of what they do for development. They do development on contaminated sites and other sites. So they're very familiar with that development under those scenarios. And so and as a result of that, there is a significant positive benefit to the town. So that being the case, then the planning board, working with again MAPC, who was as part of the grant process, looked at the underlying zoning for the C6 zone. And so some of the changes in terms of what is proposed to go before town meeting is to add, there are some uses that are in the C1 district, the commercial zoning that's on Pine Street, Pond Street, Dedham Street, to add those into the C6 zone, which the C6 zone is entirely the Southwood, former Southwood Hospital property. And then to add some newer uses, which are more, I'll say, in terms of more newer technology, in terms of classify some uses in terms of industrial wise, to make adjustments to the use table. As part of the changes, there was as going through this process was to remove residential uses, which are currently allowed there, with the exception of assisted living. That was one of the uses that came up through the planning process that people had a preference potentially to develop. If that were to occur, that would be something that was would like to see happen on the property. So in terms of residential wise, that's the use that remains in terms of the zoning proposal. And then in addition to that, there was some changes where what we've had traditionally done in town was create these multi-lot developments. It's really just how you divide the land and share utilities. We remove that into a more uniform provision where it's all under control of the property owner, so you don't have to parse off ownership and so forth. So those are the extent of the changes. And you know, the question would be, well, why now? And the reason why now is to be able for them to be able to have GFI, that is the ability to kind of understand that, all right, with hopefully with the passage of the zoning through the town in the fall, that they would have a little better understanding and some confidence that these are the type of uses that they could then down the road as that next step would have to return back to the town to go through the permitting process. And there's a there's a pretty good presumption it might need some definitely Mass DOT involvement because it's Dedham Street 1A. It could also trigger MIPA as well. And so that being the case, that would set the stage to be able to then move forward with a permitting of a project, and then hopefully that zoning passes, then it gets permitted, and then that helps give some assurances that they continue through the assessment process to evaluate what needs to be done in terms of the contamination, develop a remediation plan, and then move forward with a remediation plan. And ultimately, as the remediation plan goes forward, there will be probably some activities that will be remediation and site preparation simultaneously, because those type of things typically would happen simultaneously. So that's kind of the 30,000 view in terms of what's being proposed in terms of zoning wise.
Is
All right.
there an ability to add retail space to that, or is it just commercial buildings?
No, there is actually the ability to do retail. So
Okay.
when we did that flyover, if you saw the two areas that front along Dedham Street, Route 1A, those areas would be available for commercial development.
Rich, to back up, that's the big one is A, and the one to its left is B, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it was in the video? And then C was the one to the right.
Yeah, if it does help for the discussion, I can put up a slide so you can see it. If that
That might help, yeah.
Okay. All right, so let me just.
So I don't know if there's GFIs here, if they have anything they wanted to add to that, Rich, or
Well, like I said, if they're certainly welcome to. Bill Buckley is here from GFI Partners, along with attorney Ted Cannon, who is working with GFI.
All right. Happy to hear from you, gentlemen, if you've got something to add.
Yeah, great. Mr. Chairman, through you, members of the advisory committee. My name is William Buckley, and I'm the director of the project at 111 Dedham Street. And Rich, if you're going to share your screen, can we run through the handful of slides? Can you start at the beginning?
Sure.
Great. And first of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of the article in front of you. We have a few versions of this slide presentation, and I'm kicking myself right now because we didn't include the slides that tell you a little bit more about GFI Partners and who we are. So GFI Partners is a Boston-based real estate development company. It's a full-service development company in that we purchase land, we permit it, we build our own sites, and then we hold them in our portfolio and manage the properties and the tenants that are in there. We have a little over 18 million square feet of commercial and industrial space in our portfolio, and some additional, which also includes some hospital facilities as well as some residential properties. So GFI has been in business for over 30 years and is well versed in working on contaminated properties. We purchased this site in 2021. In 2021, it had continued to fall into extreme disrepair. Rich, if you want to show what the current conditions are. And at that time, we stepped in, purchased the property from the Archdiocese, who had controlled it and had kept it closed. I think it had been vacant for about 20 years. So it's coming up on vacant for about 20 years. It had been closed in 2003, 2004. Needless to say, the Commonwealth was not a great steward of this site and this land prior to Caritas taking ownership. There's significant contamination in the site that I think is probably the main reason why there hasn't been any real progress on development or demolition of the existing structures out there. There's a significant assessment and remediation project that's still to come here. But we do greatly appreciate the opportunity to provide comments, and I do want to commend the select board, the planning board, town administrator, and all the town departments for the work that's taken place over the last couple of years in advancing this to this point. Our view is that we see the article as proposed is consistent with the recent findings of the site reuse and zoning analysis that Rich had mentioned, as well as the goals of the town's new master plan. We participated in those processes to be sure that we understood the direction the town was looking for. After participation in those plans, we, in a review of the ongoing environmental concerns out there, we have determined that if the zoning passes, it's our intent to create a first-class, state-of-the-art commercial and industrial park, as you got a glimpse of, in conjunction with the extensive assessment and remediation work that's required. Right? We've said numerous times in front of the select board and the planning board and others that this site is going to require a very robust redevelopment plan to support the level of assessment and remediation that's needed at the site. Our conceptual plan lays out basically three parcels. It's a total 90-acre parcel, which is the C6 zone, as Rich had mentioned. So one of the things that's unique about this article is it really only applies to this one property, right? Often with adopted new zoning articles, as you're well aware, right? Yeah, it's difficult to kind of assess how it's going to impact multiple properties within that zone. In this case, the C6 zone is this property. And our proposal is to take this 90 acres, divide it into 3 lots. Rich, can you get to the lots, site? I think it's
Oop,
was the first one.
this one here? Wait, this one?
Was that the first one? Yep.
No,
So there's the industrial lot A is a 74-acre piece that's shown with the industrial commercial buildings on it. We have commercial lot B, which is the 4-acre parcel in the bottom kind of left corner of the screen. And commercial lot B is an 18-acre parcel with frontage along 111 Dedham Street. Again, this is an interesting piece in that we have almost 2/3 of a mile of frontage along Route 111, at 111 Dedham Street along Route 1A. So this current plan shows that's a 545,750 square foot multi-tenant flex industrial space to accommodate potential light industrial, manufacturing, office, and warehouse uses. This plan contemplates the 2 out parcels, and you know, I heard the advisory board at one of your previous meetings, you know, express concern about you know, not knowing what type of development those parcels could attract. And you know, we haven't spent a whole lot of time identifying a reuse for that strategy, for a strategy for those parcels. But I do want to point out that everything out here is subject to site plan approval. And in particular, the commercial lots B and C will be subject to design review, subject to the design review board, as well as site plan approval. We think there's great opportunities there for you know, a mix of office. There's, you know, potential for some retail. You know, we could see a potential restaurant site. Richard mentioned, you know, maybe an assisted living facility. There's a variety of uses that we think could work there. Our primary focus has been on getting the 74-acre piece kind of going. And we see this zoning article as really just one step in what has been and will continue to be a multi-step process for us. We've been very open in the need to have a viable project that can support our continued investment in site assessment and remediation and continued engineering and design of the project. And we really appreciate, we've had a really cooperative effort to date with, as I said, with the boards, with the town departments. And in particular, there's a very active neighborhood PIP group, which is a group established under the Massachusetts contingency plan that's available, that is there to provide a level of public involvement in the remediation and some oversight in the remediation and cleanup activities. And you know, we've made a real effort to work closely with them, and I think we've developed a real professional working relationship with that group. Just to, I guess, in closing, to summarize, the project meets the goals and metrics of the zoning analysis. It results in what was everyone's goal for remediation of the site. It has strong fiscal impact to the town. Rich, could you switch over to the fiscal impact slide? I'll just touch upon that briefly. So the projected annual tax revenues, let me get my screen out of here. Based on just the 545,000 square feet of industrial park alone, has projected annual tax revenues of just over $1 million, $1,035,000. I think the site as it currently exists brings about 84,000 in taxes, so pretty significant jump. The existing site valuation is projected to increase from 5.5 million to over $66 million added projected value to the town's tax rolls. That would nearly quadruple the current industrial valuation in the town of Norfolk, from 22.6 million to a little over $89 million. We estimate there's a little over 300,000 in permit fees. There'll be annual CPA revenue to the town, and 10% of that annual tax revenue is a little over $10,000. We think the economic development investment is going to exceed 55 million, and that's on top of several millions of dollars in remediation costs, and a potential for an estimated 350 new employees at the location, you know, continuing to strengthen the local economy. I do want to say again in closing that we acknowledge that significant planning and review and work remains on this site, and we see the zoning as the first step. There is, an extensive process with the mass contingency plan and the MCP process that we have to deal with assessment and contamination. We have planning board site plan approval, conservation approval, and Rich mentioned that would also go be in front of MIPA. We wholeheartedly support the article in its current form and to allow this conceptual project to move forward. We're looking forward to our continued working relationship with the town and the neighborhood groups. And we also have been in support of the execution of a development agreement with the town to memorialize the work that we need to continue to do on the site and the efforts we've proposed to redevelop there. So I maybe went a little longer than you were anticipating, Chair. Sorry about that, but I wanted to
That's okay.
give you an introduction there. And so
I don't, hold on a sec, Joyce. Thank you, Mr. Buckley. Before we get started, we're gonna ask some questions. I do want to remind folks on the committee, we're here to look at the zoning article. There's a long history on this site. A lot of it relative to previous proposals, a lot of it relative to the cleanup itself. What's before us tonight is the zoning article changes. And while some of that's relevant, some of the other stuff, the history, the contamination is potentially relevant to that. I do want to remind folks that the cleanup itself is governed by the state law that covers this. Mr. Buckley referenced the MCP, which stands for the Mass Contingency Plan, which is Chapter 21E. It's the state cleanup law. Whatever happens on the site is got oversight from the state on this. It's been on their radar screen for a long time. They allowed for and have supported the creation of the public involvement process, which Mr. Buckley and Rich referenced, which is a local group of citizens who are participating in that process. So I just wanted to make sure that folks understand we're not going to delve into the history where we should not be questioning cleanup strategies. It's not relevant and it's not germane to the article. I'm happy to list the questions about that, but if they're too far afield, I'm going to actually ask that they not be followed up on. With that, Joyce, do you have a question?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you can deem it an approved question or not of William. What I was going to, William, Joyce Terrier, Norfolk Advisory Board. I have not seen this presentation before. I apologize, I've not met you. I just have a quick question. I personally don't have a problem with the zoning changes that are being requested, but I would like to know, in your statement, you did indicate that your company has done a number of these types of projects before. And is there any possible way that you could just give me and our audience maybe one or two locations so that we could identify your work with hopefully a good plan for this piece of property that we're in discussion of tonight?
Sure, there's numerous examples, right? So several come to mind. There was a former U.S. steel plant in Worcester that had a significant contamination issue that we were able to clean up in conformance with the MCP, and there's that's more of a warehouse project, right? That's Imperial Products is there now. That's at that's in Worcester at 150 Blackstone, I think is the address there. We just had an open house today on a site in Hopedale, Mass, the former Rosenfeld concrete plant in Hopedale that had, it was pretty rough, former concrete processing plant with, had contamination, not to at the significance that this one that this site has, but we just completed a cleanup of that site and just constructed a 616,000 square foot warehouse there that's now looking for tenants. We are closing on a site in Wilmington in a couple of weeks, actually, that is an EPA Superfund site. It's kind of, it takes it actually takes it up a notch when you're dealing with EPA and Superfund and the cleanup requirements on those properties. So we're looking forward to working with EPA and constructing we proposed 195,000 square foot. Again, that's a warehouse facility. We have in particular, and I guess I want to, I'm glad you asked the question, because I do want to point out that, originally this site was looked at as a potential warehouse site. And originally GFI had some conversations at town, before I even started working on the project, is proposing a large 800,000 square foot warehouse facility on the site. That was not well received at town by some of the town leaders and the neighborhood PIP group, and it's one of the reasons we went back to the drawing board and got involved in the planning process. And while this is a 545,000 square foot proposed facility, again, we see it as multi-tenant. We see it as kind of more of a high-end industrial park feel to it, as opposed to a single tenant warehouse facility.
I appreciate it.
And we have a website at www.gfipartners.com that I would encourage you to visit to see some of the projects that we've developed.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I actually have a couple of questions, I think, for Rich. Rich, in your presentation, you mentioned that it eliminates or it alters the process by which multiple tenants shared utility costs, et cetera, because of the approach that GFI takes, where they own the entire property and acts as the landlord for the entire property. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's pretend in 15 years this gets redeveloped and GFI wants to sell the property. Does that eliminate the ability to return? Does the change eliminate the ability to return to the utility sharing aspects of the bylaws that stands now, the zoning bylaws that stands now?
So if it were to be sold down the road, you still can share all the utilities. I think one of the things that I think initially when the town put together the idea of the whole PMLD was sharing utilities, they had an association by which everybody would participate in it. And while that is one model, predominantly in development, they are sharing utilities, and it's done through lease agreements and easements and so forth. So you don't really need to regulate it per se through the zoning. There's other mechanisms to do the same thing, and that was the impetus to that it wasn't.
So essentially, I'm not trying to find an issue here, but the sense is you rely on the property owner to deal with that internally.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. The second question was, there was a valuation presented by Mr. Buckley, and I don't know if Rich or Justin has a comment on the accuracy of that or the expected accuracy of that.
Dave, what was the question? Sorry.
So in the presentation, there was a anticipated valuation and tax impacts and things like that were presented. Have those been analyzed by the town and sort of certified or signed off on or concurred with?
They're approximate. I think we're comfortable with saying approximate. I wouldn't say they're exact. They're approximate.
Okay.
And we can talk with the assessor about that. We'll say approximate.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's my questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Melissa?
Melissa?
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Buckley. Kind of going back to, I think, a comment that you might have made about the uses and working with the town on the master development planning. Is there still any opposition to some of the uses that have been changed in the zoning for C6?
That's I'm trying to think of a response to that, and I got the chart out in front of me. I don't think there's been a lot of controversy or discussion, at least that I've participated in, with the types of uses. I think with this new with the new schedule of use regulations attachment in the zoning, in the bylaw, you know, a lot of the changes were just, it was some common sense changes, right? We removed residential uses out of here and added you know, a level of added some commercial uses for those out parcels, and created some light industrial uses that that did not exist in the town before, such as
A follow-up on this will be to you, Rich, to find out what the sort of commentary during the planning board process was.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Buckley.
Yeah, so we did, you know, a couple of the new uses, the table was reorganized a little bit, where biotechnology and other light industrial use, like research and laboratory facilities, were moved into what is a new category of light industrial uses in the schedule of uses. And one thing that I should point out, it wasn't so much the addition of new uses, it was we added a use to point out, I think the town wanted to see a use, not to allow it, to point out that it's specifically not allowed in this district, right? So we want to just kind of back to that question, or that issue about warehouse uses. The town made it clear they don't want a fulfillment center, right? A high traffic Amazon or FedEx type related type facility that is, you know, last mile delivery, that's going to have it's going to be operating at extreme levels, right? So that use was added in there to specifically point out that it's not allowed, and we're comfortable with that, right? We anticipate that there might be warehouse uses in the industrial park, but at a smaller scale, and in some cases, you know, incidental to or an accessory to a manufacturing or you know, some other light industrial use.
Yeah, that's helpful. I just wanted to see how closely it aligned with both the planning, but also sort of the forums that had been previously held with the community and such. So,
Rich, can you sort of corroborate or comment on public comment process?
Sure. Not to repeat what Bill had said, though, which one of the ones was, you know, through this process to develop a definition for fulfillment center.
Yep.
To define that and then put that in the chart as a no. So to be clear that, you know, the intent of this is not to do a large warehouse fulfillment center. That was one of the ones. And then a good, really, actually, the bulk of these are actually uses that were in the C1 already, that weren't previously in the C6 that we brought forward, to allow them to be available there as well. So, with the, you know, the kind of the exception, I wouldn't say exceptions, but in terms of the brand new use, like I said, we created definition for fulfillment center, but like biotechnology was already a use within the zoning bylaws. We shifted the location, then we just add a little bit to the definition for that use. Another one is research laboratories facilities. Again, we already had that as a use, it's into this district, and we define that a little bit clearer. And then visual arts and productions, another one. But it was really just adding predominantly uses that were already in the other district, the C1, and put it into the C6. There wasn't opposition in terms of, the proposed changes in terms of the uses, the way they're proposed before you.
Does anyone else have any questions? Rob?
So, yeah, for the most part, I agree with that. But there are 3 usage that I don't think are in C1 or anywhere else in the town, which are now yeses, not even special permit uses. Auto freight storage, outdoor storage of more than 3 commercial vehicles. Now, the video didn't contemplate that. And what is auto freight storage?
Auto freight storage. That's a good question. And I don't think we actually define it.
You don't define it.
Yeah.
So, and it's a yes, not a special permit use.
Yeah, it's not a special permit. That's a good question. I don't think I
Those
have
3 uses, aren't what the video looks like. The video looks like nice big box things, not big chain link fences with everyone's tractors behind it, or pallets of cars or whatever. So
the and you asked about the other one, so
What was the motivation for adding them?
Just as a possible use for the site.
But it came from somewhere.
yeah, we didn't randomly pick uses here, Rich.
No. It actually was in the table, but as a no before.
Right.
So was the table?
Yeah, in terms of the
Fine.
let me look, I'm looking for it right now.
Now, outdoor storage of commercial vehicles shows up in C1.
Yeah.
Right, so that's one thing. And we know what those are. Those are,
Rich, I've offered this before. I'm happy to offer a friendly amendment on the floor if this needs to be corrected.
To
No.
to a no on auto freight.
I don't know
And
what
it
it
also-
like. I think Rob's question is what is it, and is there an anticipated potential use here? And Mr. Buckley.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, Mr. Chairman, through you. So what I'm seeing is the auto freight storage facility on a site that is fully screened by opaque fence at 6 feet high, right? So is that there are areas on this, there is one area in particular on the site that is kind of labeled for potential outdoor storage, right? And that's potential for, commercial vehicles or outdoor storage of supplies and the like. And I think that's also the so that I do think that's where that came from, right? Was there was a discussion. I don't know that it was scrutinized, and I can tell you for a fact we don't have a auto freight storage tenant in mind that's going to come there. I think it's the more flexibility the zoning board the zoning bylaw allows, as you know, rather than prohibiting uses. I mean, if it became a special permit use, right, there may be there are often circumstances where a potential use has a component or even as kind of an accessory use that then becomes it's not necessarily the primary use, but often becomes problematic if a certain use is actually prohibited in the bylaw. But that's my.
To back up to part of Rob's original question, what is auto freight storage? Is it automobiles or is it the stuff that comes off the back of a truck or?
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm the right person to define that, but maybe.
I'm not asking you, actually, I'm
Yeah,
asking
okay,
Rich.
good.
Great.
Sorry, Rich.
I'm not sure.
Could we take a look at that?
Yeah, I'd rather take a look at it than try to.
Yeah,
answer.
and we'd like to have an answer by the
Yeah.
beginning of next week, because we have to vote on this on Wednesday, so.
Yeah, I'd much prefer to do that than.
All right. Rob?
For what it's worth, Google's AI says it's where you store your car before you ship it somewhere.
Okay.
But
I
Google's
mean-
AI may be wrong.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's why we define things in the bylaw.
Yeah. Does anyone else have a question? Shockingly, we might be done here. As I indicated, we're planning on voting on this next Wednesday. And Rich, if you can get us that information before then, to be great. If there's any, someone said that it was permitted in one of the other zones in the town. There must be some sense of what it is as a result of that.
It is allowed in the C1B, but it's by special permit.
Okay, and if it has to be by a special permit, that actually, so once this zoning goes through, it's by site plan approval only, everything on the site.
Yeah,
No special permits. Okay, I just wanted to double check on that. All right.
There are some uses that are in this table that would be special permit. So for example, we kind of talked about car wash maybe last time, but that's one is a special permit use. So there are the majority of these are by right, but there are some special permit uses too with the changes.
Okay. Thank you. With that, we'll move on. Thank you to the folks from GFI 111 Dedham for attending. Rich, you're going to hang around and talk about the other articles just because we did discuss them briefly at our first meeting, but I want to make sure everyone's comfortable with what we heard, if that's okay.
Yep.
Hey,
Okay.
Dave, there's a comment, a question and a comment there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Can I look at that? If I
Click on chat.
Andrea, if you come on, you have to come on screen to ask your question.
Let me see.
It's the rules of
Start video.
online meetings.
Hi.
Hi.
So I just had a question about the development agreement. Is that part of this zoning? How is it related?
From my perspective, it's unrelated. This is a change to our town bylaws. The negotiations between the town and the developer are at the selectmen's level, and the planning board's level, but the selectmen are involved. This is literally the rules for what happens on the site only, what gets built on the site. It doesn't govern ancillary stuff. Is that inaccurate?
David, that's very accurate. The only adjustment I would even say to that is the planning board is not even involved. It's a select board sort of issue. But yeah, it's real a developer's agreement. To give you the layman's terms of it, I actually just wrote something up for it to make sure that we're all on the same page here. It doesn't change, because I know that one of the questions is does it involve remediation or anything about the site? It doesn't. It's just saying what we're expecting if the select board will pursue a developer's agreement, what we're expecting, what we're supporting, or what we're receiving in exchange. I mean, it's really nothing according to the zoning bylaw change, I would say.
Rob, you have a follow-up on that?
It's more of a question because I'm interested. Under what authority do the selectmen get to do a development agreement with a private party that owns a piece of land which is properly zoned by a community.
Could give you the technical answer of that from our town council, Rob. But developers agreements are done in multitude of communities.
I don't think it's related to the zoning, Rob.
Well,
It
no,
isn't.
no, that's my point. It's
Yeah.
like, so what are you getting out of the town? Because if you got the zoning, you can build what's zoned, right? You own the property. I guess I'm just over libertining it at the moment, all right?
Yeah, I know you are, but I can get you the technical response to that. Like I say, it happens in a variety of communities, and I think it's good for. Yeah, I mean, it really depends. It really depends. Is it absolutely necessary to move forward with zoning? No, it isn't, and that's something the board is considering. So that's all I would say because it's an executive session matter too. So
Robert, we're not allowed to call it what we used to call it, so. Yeah, the old guys on here got that, but
Well, I have over 20 years of municipal government experience, Mr. Chairman, so
Jonathan, you have a question?
I do. Sorry, I've totally lost my raise hand button, so I have to do it the old way. Just a point of information, not a question. I don't recall exactly when this was before us, but we did approve the zoning for car storage, I think at the Carvana, if I'm not mistaken, storage facility down on further south on 1A. So not in the same zone, but close geographically. And I do recall that there was specific stipulations that it was shielded from view. So there was fence regulations, all of those kinds of things. But to my knowledge, my time on this board, I think that was the only time before us where car storage was brought before us. I don't know if that is by right in the zone or by special permit, but that's where I believe that comes into play.
Once again, Jonathan, your encyclopedic knowledge of our previous work is much appreciated. Thank you.
Historically accurate.
Thanks. So if that's it, we're going to move on to some of the other planning board articles, if that's okay, Rich.
Sure.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
thank you.
Thank you.
We look forward to being here next week.
Great. I'm scrolling through the warrant so I can get to the ones that are relevant here. Make sure I've got the numbers right, Justin, as I name this. Article 10 is schedule of dimensional requirements change. It's an accessory building thing. Actually, are all three of these are related to the accessory building issue? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Can you is it easier to describe them all as a bunch?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Are we looking at something here or not?
We got the warrant a couple weeks ago, Mike.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll dig it out. Thank you.
Article 10 through 12 or 13.
I can put it on the screen if that's easier.
Why don't you? Thank you, Erica. Article 10 through 12 are the related to the accessory building.
Sure. So what's going on with these articles is a few different things. One is taking accessory buildings and put them in the dimensional table in terms of setbacks. Presently, they're in their own section, in section 6.5. And so this proposal brings them into the dimensional table to make it a little bit clearer in terms of what the dimensional requirements are for accessory buildings. That's one aspect of this. The second is to add to section 5.1 the dimensional special permit. So if someone wanted to,
you pull up article, I think, Erica, that's article 11, right, Rich?
yeah, article 11. Yeah. So essentially, interesting enough, as you apply some of these bylaws, you learn some things. And One of the largest lessons learned was that the way it's currently on the books was not the way it was intended, in terms of the interpretation was it was a word left out, which essentially made accessory buildings to be able to be in front yards by right, which was not the intent at all. So this corrects that, where it is somebody can seek a special permit to put in the front yard. And just in terms of just visually think about when we say it's the required front yard. So if we go your left property line to the right property line and then move into the lot 50 feet, that rectangular area is the required front yard setback. What this is allowing someone to do is to go into that 50-foot setback. It's come up in a few, particularly it definitely has come up in corner lots, because in corner lots you're required to maintain two front yards. So instead of having a 25-foot side, if you're on the corner, you're going to end up having two 50-foot setbacks. So it's certainly been an issue in those applications. And then some instances where you have a fairly large amount of frontage along a road. Somebody puts it in which essentially when you look at somebody's house lot, it's really on the side, but from the zoning bylaw perspective, it's really the required front yard. So it allows people to be able to do that by special permit. In fact, there's a few people that had put in sheds that had to go for variances because of that. So that's what this does here. And then the section 6.5 just strips it out, and then it just becomes swimming pools. And if you want to scroll down, Eric, if you don't mind, to 13.
Scroll down to Article 12, Eric, if you could. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I went too far. Well, actually, I didn't. But swimming pools and what does it say? Mobile home. So it's just a reordering it. So it strikes out the first one, section A, and then just reorders it in terms of alphabetical order. So that's the essence of those changes.
Does anyone have any questions on these? Rich reviewed these really briefly with us at our first meeting, but if anyone has further comment or questions, please offer them at this time.
I have a quick question. If people have put accessory buildings in their front yard while this zoning bylaw was on the books, but not the way we intended, and then we switch it, are they going to be grandfathered in to keep those in place, or what are the implications to this change?
They would be grandfathered.
Thank you.
Jonathan, good question.
Now, with a little cap. Oh, I know Rob's going to say something. Go ahead, Rob.
Rob?
Yeah, so accessory buildings include garages, right? Detached garages.
Yeah. Yep.
So if your garage is in your front yard previous to this, it's grandfathered, which means you can't really do anything to expand it without going in front of the board again.
Yep.
Going in front of the zoning board or the planning board?
Zoning board.
ZBA. And is that a special permit or is that a variance?
That would be a special permit.
A special permit.
Yeah.
Okay. Would it be counted as a pre-existing non-conforming?
It would be.
Okay.
And then when Rob buys his new cars to store in his 3-car garage.
My Carvana, cars.
Yeah,
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions on this? Rich, the last couple, just to bother you a little bit, keep you here a little longer. Blair talked to us about these Ariana Lane and Toils End Road. planning board
Mhm.
signed off on these?
Yep, they did.
DPW is fine with these, okay.
Yes.
So- Anyone have any questions on these road acceptances for 14 and 15? Okay, cool. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it.
All right, I do have some homework. I'll get back to you on that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we wouldn't mind seeing it by Monday. He's already gone. No, he's still there. Okay.
No, I didn't
The
leave yet.
screen blew up real quick and you moved around when my screen
Oh, sorry. No, I'm
turned
here.
normal
All right.
and I was like, wait, he's already gone.
I don't-
Yeah, if we get something by Monday so people have a chance to take a look at it before Wednesday, that'd be great. Monday or, Tuesday morning, whatever.
It's Indigenous Day Monday. That's okay. I could try though.
No, I appreciate that. Oh, it is. You're right. I apologize. Tuesday would be great.
Well, definitely Tuesday. Let's see. I'll see if I can get something prior to that though.
All right, cool.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Take
So
care.
Justin is here to sort of keep us up to date on what's going on with the capital stuff. He sent us some stuff earlier and I can't remember. Eric, I don't know if you forwarded it and I apologize. I saw it.
Yeah, I believe I did.
Okay. I'm now trying to pull it up because I was working when that happens. I'd have to take a look to see what it
You
was.
know, the finance PowerPoint? Is it?
Yes.
It was a PowerPoint. I think that's the PowerPoint you're gonna, it's sort of drafted what's gonna be presented at town meeting, isn't it? Is that?
Pretty much, I think, just so you guys know, I heard Joyce and the committees asked to try to get this in advance, and so we got this prelim list to you. The board hasn't considered it yet. They're meeting on Tuesday, but
Okay.
it is what my recommendation will be for Tuesday.
All right, so a little over $1 million. Ken's responded with a request for some more detailed information on the truck.
Yep. Want to run through it a little bit? You want to put it up on the slide and I can talk through it a little for you? It depends on how you approach it.
If you want to throw up probably just the last transfers. Our transfers, I think this is what we're probably most interested in, unless someone has a comment on, does anyone have any questions on the transfers, which we just blew by, but okay. I have a really quick but important question on the capital stuff. Lithium ion battery mitigation. What is that?
Yeah, I probably want to change the title of this. So like I said, this is Todd and I working. The fire department now, there's more electric vehicles and different things on, right? Batteries, different things like that. And I anticipate you want to hear from the chief, one for the Quint and this. But there's special equipment that they can utilize for batteries, electric vehicles. There was an issue with a computer that the chief had talked about in terms of the battery there. Someone had tried to burn down their home with the battery of their laptop and stuff. So there's some mitigation things that we can do with battery there. The chief is probably going to give you a better explanation than I, but it is for that reason.
So to be clear, it's not necessarily batteries that the town owns.
No, yeah. No,
it's what happens when they go on a call.
Yeah. Correct.
Oh, okay. All right.
I have a question. That's okay, Chair.
Sure. Yes. Who's that? Elise?
Thais.
Thais, sorry. I apologize.
Okay. No,
I'll
no.
get it right.
So Justin, if the school expansion moves forward, how does that impact this budget? Is that obviously it's not accounted for here now, so.
Great question. If the school expansion were to proceed, because it's a debt exclusion, you won't see it in any of these documents that we have here because it's going to be excluded from the debt. It'll be part of our overall capital improvement program book when we put it out there. But because it's a debt exclusion project, all these projects that you see here on the capital, they're free cash projects. So you won't see it on this list. and it has a designated article in the warrant, I think it's number 6 off the top of my head.
Okay,
So it would
So-
be, we would vote, if we vote on this at town meeting, we're authorizing a townwide override vote. And the townwide override vote then has to happen, and that authorizes then the borrowing that's covered by the article.
okay, yeah, that was my second question is, do we have to vote on an override? So sounds like.
Yes.
Yes,
And
Yeah.
I will say, and you guys, I know you know what the mechanism is, but I'm gonna keep saying debt exclusion, so we're using the same language.
Yep.
Override is a different mechanism that we can use in municipal government. Exclusion just sort of means like that specific debt, whether it's a capital project or whatever it is you're doing, that's excluded from your levy. And so when that debt expires and that borrowing expires, it's removed. An override is built into your levy and it grows like Prop 2.5 off of that. If that makes sense. I'm trying to.
Yeah, so you're right. So if we did an operating override, Thais, that becomes part of our base. But when we do it for a specific project, as Justin said, that becomes for the term of the project and then drops back down.
thank you.
Good question.
You know, I don't know how much we want to get into detail on this until after the select board votes on it, but why is the recreation department seeking $10,000 for baseball, softball field restoration when they're going to come back next spring and ask for some CPC money to do something similar?
Yeah, no, good question. I'll tell you exactly what my thinking was. Ann Proto, who's our rec director.
Yep.
When you see the sort of the comprehensive list that we sent, there's a lot of projects in there, and a majority of them are covered by the CPC. On my end, as I was looking at this, these fields, particularly the baseball and softball field restorations there, yeah, it might be a CPC project that covers, but I also thought it was important, at least for us, recreation is important to the town, and the schools utilize those fields substantially too. So I thought instead of utilizing, all CPC funds or rec revolving funds, because sometimes you use their rec revolving funds too, I thought, and it's my recommendation, the board may feel differently, that we should put a small piece to it. I think she requested $25,000 and I ultimately went to $10,000. That was my recommendation. Do we have to do it?
All right.
Maybe not, but I thought it was a good representation of, I don't want her to use all her rec revolving funds. Simple thing.
Okay, I just want to correct you that it's not CPC funds, it's CPC fund eligible. Being a jerk, but
You're absolutely correct.
okay. I'm fond of my CPC funds. Quick question on the last one on your list, the Mirror Lake Dike and Dam mitigation. It's obviously unrelated to the cleanup proposal, but does this have any impact on? It's a legitimate question because there was a lot of issues that were raised as we were discussing potential treatment of and then potential dredging of Mirror Lake. What that would do to the dike and dam. Has Blair taken a look at this? I mean, from that perspective, I continue to be concerned about that dredging project proposal. I anticipate we're going to see it in the spring. If Blair could address what this project is going to do for us,
Yep.
and that it's not going to have any impact or potential disturbance of the dredge materials on the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand. One, yes.
Because there's a dam there, which means there's flowage over the dam or through the dam, which means there's potential sediment movement as a result of that work. So I continue to be exceedingly cautious about what we do in Mirror Lake. So
We are too. And so high level, just this list, I sent this list to department heads this
okay,
afternoon. And I asked particularly for police, fire, DPW, and our facilities to make themselves available next week, Wednesday.
Okay.
Because I anticipated you want to hear from those groups at a minimum. If there's other departments that you think you want to hear from, you let me know and I can try to assist with that, of course. But yes, Blair will be here and we can talk to that.
I don't necessarily want to hear from Ann, but I'd be interested in what $10,000 buys in terms of field restoration.
Okay.
I don't think she has to come to the meeting to talk
Yeah.
about overseeding or something like that, but
Yep.
unless someone else would like to hear from her, but. And does anyone else have any comments on the list? On the
Some
list of
hands.
transfers? or
You
the
got some
list of
hands
capital
up
borrowing?
there. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
I said there's some hands up.
Oh, I'm sorry. With shared screen thing, not everyone's up there. I'll go to
Melissa was
Melissa
first.
first. I'm gonna go with Melissa first. She's only asked one question.
Yeah, I'm on a roll tonight, so. Justin, being somewhat new to this process as well, can you just talk a little bit about your process? And I know we saw a pretty lengthy list, I think last week when you came in. I know you and Todd go through and kind of figure out, is it like some of these are super critical needs that have been on the list for a while? You know, some I would imagine like ADA compliance, we have no choice about something like that. You know, could you just give a little insight into that?
Yeah, I love that question, actually. I really love that question. Is you have that list. I think the list that we had was, I think, over $15 million of projects initially listed. I guess our philosophy and mine, speak to myself, and then Todd will be here next week and he can give you his viewpoint, because what I like to do is I like to take a look, I like to talk to each department. Generally in capital, we try to prioritize public safety issues. We try to prioritize facilities maintenance, because those are, as you can tell, the building expansion, the fire station, those are big budgetary figures, and we want to maintain them, right, for the town. So we sort of, on me, public safety, prioritizing facilities, obviously talk with schools and different things like that. It all really flows from what that free cash number is. That free cash number, when we get it certified, that sort of informs me a little bit on what I have to maneuver with. I look at the transfers, because we generally put funds in stabilization and OPEB and different things that we have there. I think this year was really focusing on, hey, having a little reserve for our budget, because we used $950,000 of free. I think I mentioned this last time. So I had to keep a little bit in mind that I probably want to use some for that to balance the budget. And it really is going with each department. Like some of those items that were on the list that were there for 2025, once we actually talk with department heads, they're like, you know what, we could possibly push this, right? A good example is a generator, Town Hill nitrogen generator that we talked about. Matt told us, hey, and you'll hear from, you know what, that's really in good shape. I can wait till the next year. My priority is to get the boiler replacement for HOD. That would be for me. So having those conversations, seeing what levers we can, push out, or what's a priority, that's kind of what our philosophy is. And then we just try to make what we can work with a limited amount of funds.
I think that's helpful just to kind of get the mindset a little bit behind some of these in general.
Mr. Garrity, you have a question?
Yep. So just on the HOD boiler,
Yeah.
I was curious if we were doing any thinking about the I know MSB has a green repair program which can pick up to 80% of the cost if we go to a more efficient, more efficient or environmentally friendly fuel.
I spoke with Andy and Matt Malnich, who's our facilities director, about it. I think, we want to take advantage of those grant opportunities. I don't think the boiler is one that we can take advantage of it. I actually think the water heater might be something we were able to take advantage of in terms of moving to electric. I will give this caveat: with any time you do, though, you do spend a little bit. I think it's going to be a little more expensive, but we'll get a reimbursement for that. It's an active conversation that we've had, Robert. Rob, there's potential. Who knows? I'm putting the figure that we have. in place, and if there's an opportunity to get it cheaper or, do something else, then we'll take advantage of that and obviously get reimbursement. But I did speak with Andy and Matt about that.
Thank you. That, you thinking heat pumps, Rob, or? No, I'm
No.
serious.
I don't know.
Okay.
I've been out of it for a little while.
That's not true. You're right in the middle of it. Anyways, anyone else have any questions? All right. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it. Thanks for staying on top of keeping us in the loop. I appreciate that too. So, we have one more formal thing on the agenda, which is the adoption of minutes. No, okay. I thought I saw
don't
something
have
from
them.
Ken. Was it an
I've
email
been
that said I didn't get
sick.
a chance to
No.
review? Or?
There's no minutes. I've been sick. I didn't get them done. They'll
Okay,
be for next
sorry,
week.
I apologize. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
Like
no worries. I told Ken earlier. That's all.
okay. So we don't have minutes. Erica, can you confirm where we are next week?
We are in
Right.
124 next week. We are back in person. And
Okay.
NCTV expects to be able to accommodate us in the spring if 124 is not available. So we shouldn't run into these issues, hopefully.
And you do sound sick, and I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
We next week, our agenda is to actually formally approve or formally review the articles that we just talked to Justin about, and then begin to approve all the various articles. We have most of them are, I think, an easy. Most of them should be an easy discussion. I just bit my tongue thinking I may have blown that, but there'll be a couple that'll take some time. I do think the planning article, the zoning article will have some discussion. And then beyond that, then we'll vote on the articles and assign articles, write-up assignments. People should be thinking about what they want to work on. Joyce has indicated she's not around next week. Joyce, if there's anything that's a burning desire for you, let us know now and we'll make sure you get it.
How about if I'll take a review of it tomorrow on the plane and I'll let you know.
And then you'll be out of contact and we won't be able to track you down.
I know. When do the motions and
Actually, good
recommendations
question.
need to be in?
Yeah,
If we sign them next Wednesday, Erica, when do you need them by?
I need to get it to the printer by the 21st. So hopefully
It would
over
be the following Monday, right?
right. So hopefully over the weekend.
Okay. All right. Cool.
That might be difficult.
I appreciate that, Joyce. It's a short warrant and we've got almost a full staff. And Thais, we can teach you some of the fun parts about writing up articles. We give the rookies all the hard ones, so you're all set.
If it's anything like writing grants, I think I'll be okay. So
it's a little bit easier.
All right, good.
I'm almost positive it's a little bit easier than that.
Okay.
Okay, so with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to adjourn, unless anyone has any, before I do that, does anyone else have anything like to comment on before we move on?
David, just real quick before you go, because
Sure.
I always like to do this in the meeting. I just want to make sure my to-do list is together. So the people we mentioned, fire chief, police chief, DPW, and facilities director are good. You'd
Yep.
like to know from Ann, what the 10,000.
It's not worth getting her into the meeting, but if it's, because it's probably overseeding something, or it's a small amount of money, but
Is there
unless it turns out to be something really complicated.
It won't be. It won't be.
All right.
Is there anything else other than the authority for a developers agreement?
Do we think we need to have Rich or Chad or both at the meeting? Rich can't actually come next Wednesday, but do we think we need a resource to ask about the zoning stuff? Gang? No, okay. All right, then we're cool. That sounds right, Justin. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good evening. See you next
All right,
week.
Good evening. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I think I have to take a
Okay.
roll call on this because we're online. Melissa Sear.
Yay, yay.
Yes. Yay.
Or, yeah, yeah.
Jonathan Hurwitz,
Yes.
Rob Garrity,
Aye.
Mike G,
Yes.
Joyce Terrio,
Aye.
Tahis Hickman,
Yes.
Ken Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Dave Lutz, aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, folks. See you next week.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. Bye-bye.